Greetings and good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is St. Jude Brain Injury Network Cognitive Workshop. We are in the third module of 12. This third module will be specifically on attention and information processing speed. Of course, and then we'll be reviewing a lot of the things that we had discussed in the previous 2 weeks, as well as really getting into the weeds within the different strategies and how you're applying them. We had a great question open up about how to apply some of the strategies into the personal life. And so we'll be beginning with that in the next slide. So before we get started, starting with the same disclaimers. Disclaimer: the opinions voiced in this workshop are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the host of the Providence do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Providence St. Jude Medical Center. This content provided in these workshops is for informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Please consult with a healthcare professional for advice regarding any medical condition or treatment of such condition. Confidentiality. So while not mandated amongst ourselves, please keep any and all information shared amongst our attendees confidential and within this virtual room. If any information is shared that makes anyone reasonably suspicious that abuse of a child, an elder, or dependent adult is occurring, I must break confidentiality in those circumstances. So for Zoom etiquette, please remember to mute your microphone when you are not speaking to reduce background noise. If you would like to speak, please use the hand raise function or ask a question. At the bottom of your screen, there is a hand raise function at the bottom of your screen. I will periodically open up for questions also. Otherwise, please use the chat function to type in a question or to chat with other attendees. Sharing of any and all resources is greatly, greatly appreciated. And also, if there's any questions in the chat that are not addressed directly in the workshop, I will my team and I will be reviewing the questions when we have the time to following the workshop. And if any questions are in there that we can address, then we will contact you via email individually. And recording, as a reminder, this meeting and all the meetings, the 12 morning sessions in this workshop series will be recorded. There is an afternoon session that is longer than 1 hour and will not be recorded to facilitate discussion amongst ourselves. Should you be more interested and comfortable with attending that later session instead, the recording will become available as soon as possible via email, via YouTube channel. The recording will only include presenter mode, so no one's video will be shared, and your voice will only be recorded if you speak. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable with your voice being recorded, please use the chat function to answer any questions that you have. So let's begin here. And so checking in here, how was your week? Home for your stuff. Strategy 2 is the automatic places, the key ring or the home, the decorative bowl by the door, your calendar or your notebook or journal. So I will had a question earlier about calendars. So what I will do here is um, here my calendar is a little bit messy and it may seem messy to others, but for me, I've been doing this kind of calendaring for about 15 years. So the colors, the reminders, the things, all of this makes a lot of sense to me because I'm very used to it. So for example, we had a question regarding the tasks. So there is Google Keep here, and this is on the internet browser. This is also available on your phone. But let's say if we're looking on our browser, there is Google Keep up here. This icon is basically your notes section. I use this for notes for anything in particular that I might have. And then the tasks or the basically Google's to-do list is here. This is the icon. So if I click this, it'll show some tasks. And so let's say if I was to add a task, and then I could put in notes if I wanted to here, like call and or contact via email. I can put that notes there. and then I can put emails there that I wanted to contact. But then if I wanted to also now click this date and time here, right, there was a question in regards to how do I get date and time onto my calendar. So if I was to click here into my date and time and I was click today, let's say I got this done. I haven't, but hypothetically, if I was to have it done, I got it done at 9:30. So I would put 9:30 on today, Monday the 20th, and then click that, and it will show up here on my calendar. So let me zoom in here. So if I was to go in the day, boom, here are my class cases. And so here is in my calendar. So let's say if I was to have this completed, it goes off of my Google list and it marks as done on my calendar. So if I go to another day, or if let's say this is tomorrow, I can look back, see what I had, and this was done yesterday, or Monday, January the 20th at 9:30 a.m. Now, for example, if I wanted to mark uncompleted, I'm like, oh, I made a mistake. Actually, I didn't get it done today at 9:30. So actually, I need to revisit this and complete it by 3:30 today. So then I'll complete it by 3:30 today, and it will change onto my calendar. Now, and then if I wanted to set a reminder, this can set a reminder to be go off at 3:30, so I know that I need to do this. And of course, this is a personal thing for me, so this really doesn't make sense to anyone other than myself. And so at 3:30, I need to do class cases, and I'll get a reminder at 3:30 to tell me to do that thing. So hopefully that answers your question there. Does that answer your question there? Thumbs up.
I'll work a little more with it
Yeah.
and see if I can get it.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. Yeah, that's what it is, right? This workshop is we'll introduce some things, and part of it is wrestling with it, figuring out. But the date and time function helps put it into your calendar, and so when you do complete it, it will go off on your list, but then still stay on your calendar as what day and time that you completed it. So I find that to be very, very helpful for my to-do list throughout the day. And then I can put reminders to remind me, etc. So yeah, just play around with it, and then figure out how to best use it for yourself. So perfect. And now we also have the other questions or calendars or journals. How have people been using these? Any particular successes, or people have been finding ways for them to be able to use these things more effectively, these tools and strategies? Anyone? Oh yes, Kat.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm pretty consistent with the home for stuff, automatic places for certain things. Um, I use a I have to use like a hard calendar, all my
Perfect.
scribbles, and then my daily to do list, which gets pretty messy. If I have everything on the calendar, I get overwhelmed. So this is anything that's important is highlighted,
Yes.
like you have to do it. It's and then just the little pickaninny stuff during the day.
Okay,
So
perfect.
journal, I have total lack of attention span to remember to journal, but I'm starting to go on some Google stuff on hardwiring happiness. I don't remember the author. I might end up buying the book, but I'm watching some videos on that. And it's very cool.
Ooh, right.
Very,
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And so Vanessa, take note of that, and then we'll be sure to look into that hardwiring happiness. That sounds very intriguing.
yeah, it's excellent.
Yes, perfect. And I love that, Cat, right? Consistency, right? Consistency, 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 right? If you always keep your places, your calendar, your wallet, etc., either home for you have a home for your place stuff, or an automatic place for them. And if you're habitual, right? We're essentially taking advantage of like prompting and habitual learning to develop healthy practices. So once maybe you may not have conscious memory of being doing things like putting things in automatic places. If you are automatic and you're habitual and you're consistent with doing them, then then the things that you'll need, you'll automatically start putting them in these places. So perfect. Love that.
I have a quick question. The one
Yes.
thing that I'm always losing, unless it's in my back pocket, is my phone, because I
Yeah.
set it down all over. And I got a pink case, but it doesn't show up because the front is black.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago, they used to have a thing you could put with your keys. If you clapped, it beeped, so you could find
Mhm.
your keys. Does anyone know anything that you could put on your phone? Because I've actually had to have neighbors go call me so I can hear my phone ring. It's
Yeah.
not a critical thing, but sometimes I cannot find my phone. So, does anyone have heard of anything where you can like clap and your phone beeps?
Yeah. And you have some there?
Yeah. Well, at the Apple store, they have a little tag that you put on your phone and find your phone that way. I think it was $35 or a box of four. But I remember Barta. She's not listening today. Maybe she is. You can call out for your phone in a way. If you set Siri a certain way, you can call out for your phone.
Say it.
Oh, I'd probably be sunk on that, but I'll look at the
Well,
little
no,
tags.
well, fairly easy. It's just a parameter. You can, if you have Apple support, Apple Care, or Apple, you just call Apple support. You have an Apple phone.
No.
You just call them and say, "Could you tell me the command to shout out for my phone to say here? I'm here." Really?
Okay. Yeah, I've got a Samsung, and it's
So it's
old.
Samsung. Well, maybe there's probably the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, good.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah,
Though.
and
Thank you.
so for the clap, I think I'll look into it. We'll find some good ones, some clap ones that work. Something that I use is so basically it's called a chipolo. So CHIPOLO, and there's little tags. So I put a chipolo on my keys. I put a chip. It's like a small key ring thing. I put another chipolo in my wallet, and then and the cool thing about a chipolo is it's two-way. So if I need to find my wallet or my keys, there's a GPS tracker, and it also makes sounds. So if I want to call my wallet or call my bag or call my keys, I can do so on my phone. And then the opposite is also true. So let's say I have my wallet, but I was like, oh my, where's my phone? My phone's somewhere here. So I can pull the chipolo out of my wallet, and then there's a little button on it, and then when I press it, my phone will ring.
Oh my God! Is
Yeah,
that on
where
Oh, there it is.
Do you spell Chipolo, and where would you get it?
I got mine online, so it's CHIPOLO. Chipolo.
Okay. Chipolo. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I use, and I find it to be very helpful. And then the cool thing is when I'm out of range or when I get close to out of range, and I don't have my wallet, my cell phone will beep and say, "Hey, have you left your wallet?" And it will prompt me, right, to go back, like, oh, and check for my wallet, like, oh, I did leave it, and then so I have to go back to my house to get my wallet before I leave. And so again, I find that very helpful. I mean, like we were talking last week, prompts, like especially in the like digital memory aids, prompts are great ways to take advantage of habitual learning processes, especially if like there's some memory deficits or perceived memory deficits. Prompting helps take advantage of habitual learning to create habits to optimize your independence and your optimal functioning. So what that's a cool thing that I use. Maybe that might be helpful for you, Kat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up. If it'll work on a Samsung, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Actually,
So I have both the Samsung and the iOS, and I have the Chipolo for both. So it does work.
Amazon, they're like $29 That would be
Yeah.
worth the stress of never knowing where my phone is.
Yeah. And I love the way you phrase that. Love the way you phrase that. $29. That is absolutely worth the stress of always losing where my things are. I love that phrasing. I love that phrasing.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Time is money.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Rosie. Yeah, you had something there, Rosie?
Oh, I was under the home for your stuff, like back there on my table, my bedside table. After the holidays, I got more stuff. I have some things right here. So I'm like, what do I need to put there? What's important? Or
Yeah.
it's my aunt's like boyfriend gave me an Amazon card. Do I leave it here or put it there? It's like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So it's like we got struggles, and like this is my stuff. What's important? What's kind of like here or there? So
I love that, Rosie, right? So, I mean, before deciding to
yeah,
even use the strategy, right,
yeah,
you either home for your stuff or your automatic places. Even before using those
yeah.
things, you're deciding what's
What is
important.
important? What's just here and leave it.
Yeah, what's important to me and what do I need to even put in here,
Yeah,
right? And I love that, right? Like what's important so that way when I find out what's important, then I designate a place for it,
yeah. Like
right?
my therapy is later in the week. It's right there.
Yes,
If I
perfect.
my sister gave me a necklace, put it in the jewelry box. That's it. It's not important.
Ooh. The jewelry box, right? Jewelry's in the jewelry box,
Yeah,
right? If
it's a
it's there, it
gift
goes
that's
here.
important. Gifts are important, but like put it over there.
Yeah, gifts are important, and I put them over here. Jewelry in the jewelry box, right? And then gift from my boyfriend, I put that on the bedside table because that's
Yeah,
important, and I
yeah,
need that, right? So I love that, and also love that keeping up with you're connecting with relationships,
yeah.
right? And so now there's a boyfriend in the picture, so I don't want to embarrass you too much, but I love that, right? Keeping getting more relationships, connecting with others. I love that, right? Grace, yeah, you have some there, Grace.
Okay, I have a couple things to share regarding the
Ooh,
cell
good.
phone. Ever
Yeah,
since my accident, I found this is very easy. I got on Amazon, I got a little pouch. It's like a crossbody and has a 3 compartment. The first compartment, I put like a little piece of paper, put my cell phone number just in case, just on a piece of paper.
yeah,
Second compartment, I put my reading glasses. And third compartment, I put my cell phone. So it's a crossbody bag, and I just put on my body as soon as I got up in the morning.
ooh,
So this crossbody is being with me ever since my fall.
Oh,
wow,
Yeah, and it's very easy, and you just get a habit. You put on in the morning. Just a very small. It just the size is like a cell phone, and then you just need it. And I wear this around the house. Going out, I don't. But
yeah,
I need the glasses. Okay, I need a phone number just in case if I fall again. I have that
yeah,
with me, okay, and a cell phone with me, so that way I don't have to look for the cell phone in the house or anything, upstairs and
mhm,
downstairs. So I have the cell phone with me the whole time.
ooh. I love that. I love that. Right? I
And
actually
then
great.
yes,
Yeah.
and then I think on Amazon it's on $7.
Yes, I just
Wow.
looked in Amazon and there's a ton and they're like 19 to on up or probably cheaper than that if I kept scrolling. So
Yeah,
thank you for
just
Yeah.
that.
a yeah,
That
just a
might
little
work.
pouch.
Yeah.
And the second thing I want to share, this is we're talking about it, checking how was your week.
Oh yeah. Oh, perfect, Grace. Grace, and but that second thing. So before I get to the second thing, the first thing I want to comment on that, right? Because what Grace is doing there, she's taking as soon as she wakes up, gets this little pouch, and it's automatic, right? There's a home
Yeah,
for your stuff and an automatic place for everything, and so she's really because she's so habitual about it, that automatic of putting on that small pouch, right? Where there's a cell phone, there's a wallet, there's a reading glasses, there's a home for all of her stuff. And because she's doing it automatically, she's doing that prompting that we're saying, where she's taking advantage of implicit memory so that she is building habits. So that way, the things that she needs throughout the day while she's at work or while she's at home are with her all the time. I love that, Grace. Yeah, go ahead. Second, number two.
Yeah, number two, I found out because I eat oatmeal every day for breakfast. Okay, and I go to Costco, get us a big old box of the oatmeal. I always put a date when I open that package, that pouch, so I know how long that that big box how long will last me. So I got a habit writing the date on everything. You know, sometimes I have my vitamin, I have my pills, my medication, everything. You know, when I start date, so I know, okay, this medication will take me, you know, so many days, and that oatmeal will take me so many days. So I don't have to worry about it if I'm running out. So I know, okay, that pouch, that oatmeal, I know the oatmeal, it takes me about a month. So when I go to Costco, I said, okay, you know, I need to get 2 more boxes. I know will last me 2 more months.
Good. Right. So she's writing things down and then projecting. Right. So I love that because then it also helps you. What you're doing there, Grace, is you're using your current experience to project like my future experience. So based on my past, I'm going to need a new oatmeal box in about a month. And so you're able to project.
Yes.
Love that, right? And so she's all about taking data from her previous data and using it to extrapolate her what she's going to need based on her current behaviors, based on her past habits.
Yes, and that's very, very convenient, very helpful.
Yeah, man, I love that, Grace. Man, number one, number two, right? Really starting the workshop strongly, right? And particularly, it's downstairs. Yeah. So I mean, particularly, I love that because she's now starting the workshop strongly with new habits, talking about like you know, that while she's at home, she's taking advantage of implicit learning by doing habits, so that way she's always supporting her memory with the three compartment pouch, right? And so that her glasses, phone number, and phone are always with her. And then in doing so, also taking consideration her past behaviors to inform how she's going to go about today and tomorrow. Love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So perfect. So now we're talking about the journal, right? The journal is you know, some people are incorporating it, some people are having some difficulty with it. And so this is what we're kind of talking about. So by journaling, we're just talking about journaling. Is that you know, the journal here, I mean, a big part of it is if you want. Yes, excellent. I see that, and thank you, I appreciate that, right? And it's cute. I see it's nice and pink and personalized. Be kind to your mind, right? And with a good message on top, right? So one of these things can, and one of the most common way is to just use it like it's called a brain dump, right? So if your mind feels cluttered, if your mind feels cluttered and there's a lot of things just going in there, there's just unprocessed minds, unprocessed thoughts, just you know, this, that, and your mind's just racing about a whole bunch of nothing, right? Is that could be a good opportunity or good signal to say, all right, I need to do a quote unquote brain dump in my journal, right? If your mind is just racing, all these conversations, all these different meetings you may have went to, you know, like what you had for your meals or things like that, or your medications, you're not sure, maybe even some chores you need to do. So one way to think of this brain dump process is kind of like a pre-calendar, right? Is how I've heard it discussed. So before using your calendar, this is a pre-calendar where you just have all these thoughts, your mind is racing, and so if that's happening, one way to conceptualize that is like maybe your brain is just has all these thoughts and is really needing some support to like work it out, right? I just need some help. I need some support. There's a lot of stuff in here, and I just need some help to kind of sort it out. Right. And then so having this journal just for a brain dump. And so in this sense, there's no real structure. This is just like, write down your thoughts. And then maybe once you start writing down all your unconnected thoughts, your racing thoughts, you start realizing that like, okay, well, some of these are about this topic. Maybe some of these are about my medication, some of these are about my chores, some of these are about my meetings. And so maybe I can do this and I can now sort these to take the journal, the brain dump, and move it to either my to-do list or to a calendar, right? And then so you can carry this around with your calendar. It could be a small notebook, and you could keep it with your home for your stuff. Now, so for me, like on my Google, right? So I have my Google Calendar. I have my to-do list. It's called Google Keep. It's that blue icon, and then the yellow icon that I showed above that was my notebook, right? It's referred to as right here. It's referred to as Google Keep, right? Google Keep. And so these are all my notes, right? So as you can see, my notes are pretty empty. And so generally right now I don't really have to my notes are generally pretty empty because I take from my notes and I move it to either my to-do list or to my calendar. So there is a place and a time for my notes that I move to my to-do list, and then I move to my calendar, also known as the ABC technique. Another way to utilize your notebook, which I found to be helpful for some people, is if you start taking down just a weekly log of things that you're doing, the way you're feeling, right? And this could just be like 2 or 3 words. I feel sad, or I feel excited. I feel energized after doing blah. I feel dumb after feeling duh, or I feel about XYZ, about this person after XYZ. And so once you just start taking logs of just notes of just how you're feeling and things like that, do it day after day after day, just do it daily, right? Like Kat was saying, consistency, right? If you're consistent with it day after day, and then maybe after 2 or 3 weeks, after that, you'll have 2 or 3 weeks of data, right? Of notes, of your notes, right? That's also data. So 2 to 3 weeks of just all of your notes. That's up to 21 days of notes or data that you can now enter into AI, right? I mean, we are talking about cognitive applications last week, right? And so after 2 or 3 weeks of data, you can take that data and then put it into a freely accessible AI tool, right? And the most well-known one is like ChatGPT, but there are tons of other ones out there, right? Another AI tool that we used last week was Goblin tools to break down tasks that you're having difficulty with, right? And so once you can have all this data and you can just put it in, it'll pick out some things that may be very difficult for you to look at one day at a time, right? This will look at your 3 weeks of all the days in succession. And so it might pick up, oh, you actually have an uptake. There's a pattern detected in the number of days where you're doing X, Y, and Z, or you're exercising more, or you exercise 23% more in week 3 than you did in week 1. And you can also see that based on your own report of how you're feeling, there's an improvement in the way that you're feeling after the end of week 3, after the end of week 1. those kinds of things. And you can begin to play with it, right? To really identify what worked out well, what didn't work out well, where did things begin to go wrong, right? And this is all in the basis of metacognition. This is a fancy term for it. Metacognition is thinking about thinking, right? Or thinking about your own behavior and being and monitoring, self-monitoring your own behavior to find your own solutions, right? As we've said multiple times in this group beforehand in previous workshops, you can't fix something if you don't know what's broke, right? And so, right, how you know what to fix? I don't even know that's broken, right? And so this way, all part of this cog workshop is also highlighting ways where you can become aware, right? Become aware of the things that you're doing and becoming aware of the things that you're doing that are making you feel a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosie,
Oh, I was gonna
you had
say,
something.
you got a weekly log. I'm a scientist. You got your data. You can make a habit that way. Repetition, if it's a positive thing, you log it, you're gonna do it in the future. So I think of it that way.
Boom. Man, nice, right? Spoken from a house scientist, right? There you go, Rosie, right? Taking data, right? Data is not just for the lab, right? So data is for our everyday,
And
right?
data is a fact. Facts are real. It's gonna happen.
Man, I love that. I love that, Rosie. Right? Data are based on objective occurrences of what you did and what you feel, right? And so data over time can pick up patterns of how we can take advantage of and leverage our own reports to find what works and what doesn't work. Right. So I love that, Rosie. Yeah. Data is not just for the lab. Data is also for home, right?
It is.
Data's for home, data's for every day, right? And so, I love that. Love that, Rosie. Keep it up. Keep it up. Yes, and you have something there.
Yeah, am I muted? Let me see. I can't see. Oh, well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we hear you well.
Yeah, for very important stuff, I text myself, and that's a running text of, I can look back because it's not that long and it's history, numbers, places, things like that, that I want to go back and look at. And also I voice record. For instance, I'm looking at I'm trying to rent again in a few months, and I'm looking at streets I want to might want to live at. So as I want to go on a bus route. So as I drive by, I'm just recording the streets so I can look them up through, rental websites, free, by the way, and see if there's anything for rent on those websites. So using voice record is very important for me.
Yeah,
And
huge,
also
huge.
testing myself. Yeah.
Yeah, huge. I mean, last week we were talking about cognitive applications for life management, right? And so taking notes and however you want to take notes, be it through a journal, physical journal, right? Or, doing it via texting yourself. So that way you have a running log of your own texts to yourself. Or, and then doing those texts to yourself, you don't always have to type them out. You can use voice to text. Right. And so having that voice to text, those are all applications that you can use to leverage and maximize your functional independence, right? By creating habits, leveraging implicit memories, and increasing awareness and monitoring, right? As we were saying, because you have to monitor yourself, you have to do self-monitoring in order for you to identify patterns, to identify what things aren't working for you, because you can't, as we say here, you can't fix something if you don't know it's broke, right? And sometimes knowing that something is broke requires a different lens that maybe that you have, and that's where AI, right, and pattern detection, machine learning, those kinds of things can detect patterns before you can, right? And so those are all important as well. So here's one journal, right? Example, right? So if you wanted to do learning opportunities, make 2 columns, 1 learning opportunities and 1 successes, right? So I yelled at my cat. I felt bad. At work, I threw a notebook. I feel ashamed, right? Made a snarky comment to my family over the phone. Now I feel guilty, right? And then here are some successes that I'm doing instead, right? So, for example, I noticed frustration, and instead of getting upset, I took a breath on the phone with my loved ones. I took a 10-minute break from work so I wouldn't get, my frustration wouldn't continue to build, right? So that way I didn't have to throw nothing. Or I slept 8 hours for once, right? Sleep underscore again, good quality sleep, so important. And so these are all things that we can begin to identify, right? And using our journal, right? As we just saw, we use Google Calendars, we use Google, the to-do list, and Google Keep for the notes. They're all in one place. They're all in one place on your phone. They're all in one place in your browser. I use them religiously. And that's what it comes down to what Miss Katie was sharing in the beginning. Number one, consistency, right? You want things to work, you got to be consistent. And so, right now, we talk about our journal, right? What is the one goal that you all have for the next 3 months, right? And now, if you're comfortable with sharing this, I know not all goals are public, right? Some people are, they feel that their goal is very intimate, very private. And if that's the case, you are not I'm not forcing you to share it as long as you know it, right? These are, for you, what seems to be the goal that you have. And if you're comfortable with sharing it, we hope that your goal, if you take a look at it, your goal, if you're holding on to it, is likely going to get at some value, right? Some life value that you have, right? And so some goal, if it's meaningful for you in some way, chances are it's tied to a value that you have. And so for that goal, please write it in your journal, right? And part of that is writing it in your journal, so that way we can start breaking down the next 3 months together, right? So that way each day, each week, you're taking some small progressive step towards that goal, which is intimately tied to a value that you hold about yourself, that you find very important. And values could be, these are some general ones that I'm sharing here. And so, and of course, this list of values is not comprehensive. And so you have this a list with you in the slides that was shared to you last Friday. And some common values could be things like family, spirituality, relationships, humor, independence, career, self-care and health, kindness, creativity, belongingness, connection, courage, curiosity, service to others or service to a field or a discipline, social justice, race, ethnicity, cultural pride, LGBTQ pride, right? Or there can be tons of other values, right? So these are just some of the main ones, right? And so, yeah, Rosie, you had a goal there that was
I was
tied.
kind of my short-term goal is like, post my injury, this left eye sometimes. So, my right eye focuses straight on, but this left eye checks out. So like I
Yeah,
do these daily like focus exercises, like our topic today, like focusing on yourself and your long-term vision. Like this one checks out. So I need to be
yeah.
doing my daily exercise and like tracing and stuff. So like doing that like daily like habit journal and upkeep of your schedule, doing that little notebook for yourself. If I check it off, I did it. It's gonna make my goal of this I being in line. So we're mixing those two ideas.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Right. So, doing your daily eye exercises,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
so, and then that, your eye exercises to realign it, right?
Yeah.
And then that
Alignment.
value, that value of that, right? That is this one here, right? So Rosie wants to work on her eye, right? And then that's aligned with this value of health
Health and
and
self-care. It's like,
self-care.
yeah, it's like, when you're out talking to people, eye contact is a big thing. Like, in my
Perfect.
recovery, someone in-person therapy, I'm looking at them, that's normal, but this eye checks out. So eye exercise it.
Ooh, I love that. See, Rosie is saying her eye, doing her eye exercises is not just based on the value of
For
health
other
and her
people.
own health and self-care, but it's also, she ties in a second value of,
Socialize.
yeah, socializing, relationships, because she understanding that speaking with other people requires eye contact, right? So now she's got this one goal, but it gets at two values,
Things, yeah.
right? Gets at two values, right? And so now for the next 3 months, part of this is going to be engaging in your eye exercises daily,
Daily, back to back.
right? Back to back. And then this could be something that like maybe you put into a calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah, you put into a calendar until it becomes a habit, right?
yeah,
Once it becomes a habit, now it's automatic.
yeah. I have a daily recall journal. It's like my short-term memory. So I put it
Good.
in here. It happened towards my goals. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect, man. See, look at Rosie here, right? Speaking like a true cognitive workshop veteran, right? She's already
Yeah.
got a calendar out. She's already listing all of her short-term recall
Yeah.
goals in there, right? And it's all perfect. It's all moving in the same direction of being progressive towards her goal. So I love that, Rosie. Yes, Miss Katie.
I really like what Rosie just said, and that's something that I don't think a lot of people think about is, that the eye contact is so important. Um,
Yeah.
and that's good that you're working on it. I had kind of a similar problem with a health thing. I'm rehabbing my shoulder and my arm. I was doing strength training and I screwed up. And so I would go to the physical therapist, so I go 3 times a week, and I couldn't remember. They go, well, how's it going? I could not remember from one day to the next, and so I knew that I needed to, and I guess I took up what Rosie just mentioned. I did a thing called a habit tracker, kind of, and so what I did is I listed the exercises I was supposed to do, and then I dated it. And I'll just tell you, in case anybody else, this has helped me so much. So
Ooh.
I don't know if anybody can see that, but these are the exercises here. And then I used colored markers to show that I did it. And then um, on the next page, I just wrote the day and time, and I wrote down how I felt. And so now when I go to my physical therapy, I just hand them this, and they look at it and they go, well, this isn't working. And it's really helped me so much. And then they looked and said, oh, this is working. And so it's actually helping them too. So this has
Wow.
really changed my physical therapy. And actually, and Rosie, you probably already know this, it encourages like using
Yeah.
colorful dots. Like when I check it off, I'm like, oh,
Check off. You
that's
did it.
it. Yeah, it feels good. So you want to do it more.
Yeah, it's good for
Right.
you feel accomplished. You did it and push yourself forward.
Yeah.
Hey, that's right, man. I love that, Miss Katie, and very well organized, right? Like with the colored dots. And you're exactly right. And I think that that's such an important point that needs to be highlighted, right? Doing this, keeping organized on what days I did what exercises and how I felt, right? Not only was it able to help me feel encouraged, but it also helped me help my therapist help me, right? Like, so they know, oh, this ain't working. Oh, we got to do more of this. No, this isn't working, but we need to really start thinking about doing X, Y, or Z. So that way they could better tailor, better personalize your own treatment plan,
Yeah,
right?
personal.
And key, Love that, man. Love that, Miss Katie, right? Yes, absolutely. Miss Katie and Rosie, man, tag team in there. Love you guys. That's great. That's great. So keeping it up on that, right? And so ultimately, what we're going to be talking about today here is information and attention, information processing and attention, right? So this table was also sent out to you last week with the slides. Right, this is just a checklist, right? So metacognitive training is on here, right? And so attention training, and this is ultimately what we're going at, right? So metacognitive training, you combine these with executive function training, right? With your everyday activities, right? And so part of this everyday activities, right, is also then training on tasks in real world contexts, right? And then this will increase the functional everyday activities, right? So, for example, uh, uh, Rosie was just saying that I do these kind of like on my journal. I do every day that I write it down and I track how often I do my eye exercises, right? So here, these are functional everyday activities that you're combining, right,
Yeah.
with your
If I do it,
combining.
If I do it, I have it on my list, I check it off. Well, when I did
Yeah,
it, I feel I did it. I accomplished something. So like
yeah,
it's like in my like it's a good thing or it's kind of work. It's like a learning opportunity. If I do it, I did it. I kind of didn't do it. No.
yeah. What does that teach you? What does that tell you? If you
And
kind of didn't do it, what does that tell you?
I need to like my sense of focus. This is a good, it's my short-term goal. It needs to be in line. So if it's not progress toward my goal, I need to focus on it.
Okay, good. So good, right? So Rosie's saying right there, right? It provides, she's metacognitive, doing
Yeah,
some metacognitive tasks there. It's saying, well, if I kind of didn't do it, what is that telling me? I need to refocus my thing
right
because
there.
this is my short-term goal. I need to refocus and I need to identify those things that tell me that it's taking away my focus. So I need to really identify some of those things and refocus. And to highlight also in the functional everyday activities, Miss Katie, right? Functional everyday activities, right? I'm going to physical therapy, right? And now physical therapists, they are people, and physical therapists, they need information to better help their patient. And so what Miss Katie did was she combined her metacognitive strategy training with her tasks, right? So on that the color coded exercises, I did this exercise on these days, and on these days I felt boom, I felt X, Y, or Z. So the I feel part is the metacognitive part, right? I did something, and now thinking about my own thinking, how did I feel on that after I did that exercise? So now she's combining these compensatory cognitive tasks, training strategies with metacognition by saying, how did that make me feel? And then doing both of those things together allowed her to inform her physical therapist to improve functional everyday activities, right? Like doing her exercises to improve her own health, right? So that's perfect. Love that. So again, kudos, applause, round of applause. I'm giving you a round of applause there to Rosie and Katie. So keep that up, right? And so for others, right, that gives an example, two examples of how we can use these kinds of things that we've been talking about in the past 2 weeks, right, and incorporating them into our daily, everyday schedules, right? And then of course, on here, there's a pharmacological intervention, but of course, I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm just going to essentially regurgitate what's on here. So the drug methylphenidate is recommended to enhance the speed of information processing, right? And so if let's say, and these are INCOG guidelines, so the indication is here, if you want to improve your intentional function, your speed of cognitive processing, sustained tension and vigilance, then here you can go, and these are particular things. If you have mild, moderate, or severe attention issues, you can bring these to, like, let's say your MD or your primary care physician. So these are recommendations from the INCOG 2.0 cognitive rehabilitation guidelines. And then if you look onto the cognitive guidelines in INCOG 2 for intention and information processing, which is also sent out to you on Friday with the slides in this checklist, it recommends some dosing recommendations. And so I'm not going to go over those dosing recommendations here, because it's likely I might say something that is inaccurate. So take a look at the INCOG guidelines to be sure. So part of this here, and so this is the flow of cognitive processes model. This is used, it was developed by, I think I got this from Dr. Corrigan from Ohio State University, the Wexner School of Medicine. And so here the flow of cognitive processes model says, first, this is essentially the general process for healthy cognition is you have attention, you're alert. So this is wakefulness. Let's say you're awake, you sleeping okay, you're sleeping fine. You have enough spoons. Then once you have enough spoons, then that allows you to pay attention. And once you're paying attention, right, then you can start processing the information. And then once you process the information, you've encoded it, you've consolidated it, you've organized it. Now it's stored into your memory. And once it's in your memory, then you can start utilizing these things for your executive functions like planning, organizing, etc. So now, while this flow here is 1, 2, 3, 4, keep in mind it's also important that this isn't necessarily sequential. Although typically it is sequential, it does not necessarily mean that it must be sequential, right? So there may be deficits along these routes, but because of some compensatory strategy or a caregiver or some other thing that you're using to compensate, you can still go throughout this healthy cognitive process, even though you may be having some difficulties. So here again, over the rest of the workshop, we're going to be learning cognitive tools. And a big part of this is, if you need some social support, we can use it with our support group that happens on Friday at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Where we'll explore helpful therapies and useful tools. And ultimately, as Kat was saying, Katie was saying, Miss Rosie was saying, just beginning to think about your difficulties, your strengths, your limitations, that will help you identify helpful steps towards your goals that are based on your values. So really, all of this, number 3, this is metacognition, metacognitive strategies, right? Just to set it in another way. So right here, and so taking a step back to the INCOG 2.0 guidelines, right? Guidelines for the information and processing and attention, right? So first is the screen, right? Screen for hearing, vision, fatigue, stress, wake sleep disturbance, pain, substance abuse or use, and medications. So if we go back to our cognitive processes model, right? If we go back to our cognitive processes model here, right? If we're having difficulties with pain, sleep, wake, hearing, etc., we're not, if we're having problems with sleep or medication or substance abuse, that's affecting our alertness. We can't be as attuned to what's happening in the real world, right? Because we're sleepy, or there's side effects, or we might be having some delirium even. And then for things like hearing difficulties or vision difficulties, you might be having very significant problems with processing, right? big part of processing is putting things into your own words. But if you're not able to see or pay attention to the world, to the real world as it is, you might be having difficulties with these very early on processes, like the alertness or the attention or the processing. You're not able to pay attention because you're in pain. You're not able to be alert because you're sleepy. You're not able to process things because you're not able to see or hear properly. And so these things, these very early on processes, are going to impact your capacity to remember and eventually to use these things for higher order cognitive functions like planning or working or organizing. And so incog 2.0, their top recommendation is screen for these things, right? Vision, hearing, stress, pain, substance use, medication, right? Those kinds of things. And then a second recommendation is computer-based decontextualized tasks are not recommended for the lack of impact on everyday function. But these are nonetheless, they may be fun, right? If you enjoy them, if you enjoy the games, right? We're not saying like, oh, you should not use them. There's a time and a place for it. If you enjoy these games, right? If you enjoy Fruit Ninja, play it, right? If you got some time, right? And you got some downtime and you enjoy it, play it, right? But if you're only doing it, you're only forcing yourself through it because like, hey, this is going to help me improve my attention in every day. If that's the only reason that you're doing them, the incog 2.0 recommendations say that the generalizability between those computer tasks and the real world function is not supported. So unless you enjoy them, there's really not strong evidence to support that it improves everyday function. And so 3 is dual task training. And so these are things like doing more than one task at a single time, right? So if you're having a hard time with this, take it slow, right? If you're having a hard time, take it slow, right? Yeah. And so some simple tasks, these are things like talking and walking, right? Talking and walking. I mean, shoot, you could even talk to yourself, right? And just be sure, just be careful on where you're doing it, right? Because if you're talking to yourself and it's nighttime and it's in a Target or in a public place, you might not be received well. But then if you're outside in the middle of the day, right, and you're in a park by yourself, right, it's probably fine for you to talk to yourself out loud, right? Balancing cognitive tasks, right? So if you're trying to balance, right, and you're doing a task, like let's say you're trying to balance, you're trying to walk, and you're counting the number of birds that fly through the air, right? You're tracking, you're using your memory, you're doing multiple things at once, right? And other things could be like visual and physical tasks, right? So like maybe you're lifting weights, but you're also performing a task that requires focus and tracking. So like when you're lifting weights, right, you're also tracking 1, 2, how many reps am I doing, right? Or you're cooking and you're also tracking, well, how much of this ingredient do I need, and how long has it been sitting on the burner, and do I need to turn it off or do I need to turn on the heat? And those are all things that you're dual task training. Yes, Rosie, you had a question there?
Oh, I was just saying, like, a bunch of my peers are on their phone all the time, either looking for social media or like TikTok or whatever, or you can actually check emails on this too, but like they're walking around, eyes down on the phone. But we need to be working on face-to-face communication. Their eyes are down there. They're not really. You want to talk to them.
Yeah.
They're blanked out. So you're just like, that's working on my social skills, but like the other person's like this the whole time. Like, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, That's true. I mean, that's true, right? And so that brings up a whole nother thing that is beyond what I'm talking about here, right? But like, yeah, so maybe you're on your phone or you're walking, but you're not really paying attention where you're
Yeah.
walking, right? And then that could be a whole nother thing. And then another dual task training that you bring up there, Rosie, is engaging with other people,
Others.
right? There's so many different processes that are happening at the same time when you're trying to communicate, have a conversation with someone. So you're exactly right there, Rosie.
Yeah.
Right? I'm trying to
Like,
track like what I'm gonna say, what they're saying. I'm keeping also track of their nonverbals and their tone, and then I'm adjusting my behavior based on how way they're responding to me. So
yeah.
that's a whole lot of tasks that are happening simultaneously.
I
So
was
exactly right.
really thinking, when you go to a store or like a fast food restaurant, there's usually a person behind the counter talking to you. But a bunch of places right now have a digital kiosk you tap on to get your order. Like these people's
Yeah.
jobs are like a thing in the past, like AI takeover. And it's like, like, okay, I want my cheeseburger in it. I want like someplace like McDonald's, you want your burger. If there's no one at the counter, here you go. There's like some
Yeah.
thought comes out of the thing. It's like part of our world right now, but like
Yeah.
interpersonal skills, like we just have to go with it.
Yeah, right. You're exactly right, right? And so there is no replacement for interpersonal skills there, Rosie. So you're exactly right. And then so for number 4 for the incog recommendations, alterations of your environment may be used to reduce the impact of attentional deficits. So I mean, you're right here, Rosie. I think this is a great way. Like, let's say you have difficulties with attention or difficulties talking to people. So in this case, maybe a kiosk might be more suitable for you, right? Because of your attentional deficits, taking your time, right? You can take as much time as you want ordering from a kiosk, right? Where you're not in front of a person, where someone might feel pressured, like, oh, I need to take my time. I want to order based on my own time, and I'm going to take a lot of time. So so maybe using a kiosk in that situation might be more conducive versus having someone face to face, right? If there's problems with that. So you're exactly right there. And then number 5, I think number 5, you guys have brought up so many great things thus far in this third module that use metacognitive strategy training, right? Use and applying these metacognitive strategies on functional everyday activities, right? Like, let's say I'm tracking my PT exercises, then I'm wanting to see, well, how did I feel about that? So I did that 3 days out of the week. How did I feel after those 3-day weeks, right? So how do I feel? What did I think? Right? Like going to the kiosk, what did I think about that? Do I miss that interpersonal interaction? What about, trying to have a conversation with someone while walking? If they're on their phone, I feel very isolated. I don't feel like they're giving me attention, right? So those are things where you are now applying metacognitive strategies to your everyday activities. How did I feel when that happened? How did I think when that happened? What was my opinion of that? Did I think about them in a certain way, right? And so all of these things are metacognitive strategies. And so to go over those really briefly, I'm just going to blow through these. And so if you're interested, the metacognitive strategies, all these metacognitive exercises, they're all available on the slides, right? So I invite you for the next week to look at these metacognitive strategies and practice them in your everyday functional activities, right? And so one is like self-questioning, right? So what is it, right? So it's asking yourself questions, right, to evaluate and improve your understanding or your problem solving, right? And so there on the right is how do you apply it, right? And so these are some questions that I've prepared that you can look into to help you apply them to your everyday functional activities. Second one is planning and goal setting, right? So you setting your goals, right? This is a big piece of what we're also just talking about, right? Like, what is your goal? Thinking about what is your goal? What is your short-term goal for the next 3 months, the next 2 months, the next month, right? Maybe if thinking that far ahead is difficult for you, break it down, right? What's your next goal for the next month? Right, then we'll do them 1 month at a time. And even if that's too long for you, what's your goal for the next week? Right. And then setting that goal for what you want to achieve and determining how you're going to accomplish them. Right. And so how to apply that, I have those steps there on the right. Exercise 3, monitor your thinking, right? So it's continuously checking on your thought process to ensure that you are on track to identify when you need to adjust your approach, right? So I'm doing this, I'm kind of doing this task, and so at what point do I think like, okay, well, I'm applying this, I'm applying this thing on my goal where I'm checking on doing this thing, and so at what point do I actually need to try something different or try something more, right? And so that those exercises there. Exercise 4, reflection, reviewing what you've learned or done and considering how you can improve. Right. So Rosie just brought up a great example of this, right? Is when I'm not doing my exercise, or I did this or I kind of did this exercise, then um, why was that? Why did I not only do it? Why was my focus not good? What should I do instead? Or what do I need to change so that my focus can improve? Right? That's metacognitive exercise 4. Metacognitive exercise 5 is self-regulation, adjusting your actions or thoughts based on how your progress is happening, right? And here's how you can apply it, right? All the skills there on the right. Exercise 6, making connections, right? So linking new information to what you already know to improve your understanding and your memory, right? So if you're needing help making connections, or you need help making connections, identifying patterns in your own data, in your own journal. We talked about in the very beginning of this workshop. If you're having problems, you can either bring it to myself or to Vanessa, or you can use something like AI, those AI tools, right? To help you identify some patterns. Exercise 7. So, and to highlight that, AI tool could be a very helpful metacognitive strategy if you need some assistance. Right? Not to say that it's all going to be all correct, but it might give you some good thoughts on some things to consider. And metacognitive strategy 7, cognitive restructuring, just changing the way you think about a situation to make it more manageable or positive, right? So yeah, like I always forget to do things. Well, how about I just forget in the mornings, or I just forget when I'm stressed, or I forget when I have a lot of things to remember. Well, then good, because then if you restructure, you reframe that always terrible memory, then in that way it sounds like it's more manageable, right? If it's only in the morning, or if it's only when you're stressed, or if it's only when you got a lot of things to do, those are situations that where you can put in other strategies, right? Like maybe using the to-do list more, or using your calendar more, or using text to speech a little bit more, right? Or texting yourself, right? Anne was saying that's what she does. She'll text herself, so that way she doesn't have to remember, and she'll always have a running text message of her own thoughts, right? Metacognitive strategy 8, right? Thinking aloud, right? And so this is kind of what we're saying, right? Dual task training, right? You can now stack these You can dual stack, dual task training, which is recommendation from INCOG Guidelines 2.0. And you can stack that with a metacognitive strategy of thinking out loud. Because when you think out loud, you say it out loud, you hear yourself say it out loud, and then you say it back to yourself about what you said out loud. So you're processing it multiple times, right? And so in this sense, you're not only processing it multiple times, but you're also doing a recommendation from the INCOG guidelines. So here you're dual task training, and you're improving your memory, and you're also engaging in a metacognitive strategy, right? So now that's really what we're trying to get at. You just find what strategies work best for you, then you stack them. You stack them as much as you can, right? And that's really what the cognitive workshops here are designed to do. You just stack them as much as you can, right? So that way you get the maximum benefit of using just very minimal time, right? Metacognitive strategy 9, using visual aids, right? So what is this? So it's creating visual representation to better understand and organize information, right? So and getting it on her text message, it's creating a visual. Katie, creating a visual representation to understand, right? She color codes them. Color code is getting all in color coding, right? So it helps you understand, gets it all in one place, right? And then so now those are the metacognitive strategies. Now the pharmacological recommendations per INCOG guidelines. So again, please consult your physician. One is methylphenidate, right? These are the dosing, approximately 0.10 and gradually increase, so on, to 0.25 to 0.3. Is recommended in adults with TBI to enhance speed of information processing. So for those of you, disclosure there, I am on an extended release of 0.10 milligrams of methylphenidate, right? And so second is the traditional Chinese medicine, MLC 901, also called NeuroAid, may enhance complex attention in individuals with mild to moderate TBI. And so that NeuroAid is here, right? So NeuroAid, I will say it is expensive, right? So of course, right? It's all expensive. So someone's capitalizing on it, right? Even though it's a traditional Chinese medicine, someone packaged it up, turned it to a pill, and then charged a whole bunch of money for it, right? Oh yes, humans, right? They're so predictable. And so these are some of the ingredients in NeuroAid 2 or MLC 901. And also I want to highlight, even though it's a pill, it's a traditional Chinese medicine, right? It's a herb. And if you get the pill, it costs a lot of money, but also wanting to highlight that, yes, there are greater gains in the central nervous system vital signs for complex attention, right? At 6 months relative to controls. So you have to do this regularly for 6 months to get this, to experience this greater gain in complex attention, right? However, there were no group differences for reported mood, fatigue, physical disability, or overall improvement in quality of life at 6 months. So again, to highlight that, yes, with this traditional Chinese herb, you can improve your complex attention. However, it's expensive because someone took this traditional Chinese medicine, this herb, turned it into a pill, put a whole bunch of money on it. And so if you decide to, spend the money, if you have the money, right, to take this medication for over 6 months, right, in order to experience this improvement in complex attention, there were no improvements in overall quality of life, mood, fatigue, physical disability, right? So yes, you get this improvement in complex attention, but it wasn't in mood, it was not in fatigue, it was not in overall quality of life. So just the pros and cons, right? Yes, you can improve your complex attention, but what are the pros and cons? And so you yourself might find this to be worth it. And if it is, that's the information there for you. But if not, right? So this is kind of one of the things that we're talking about, right? So you can improve the cellular function, the network function, but does it improve the uh, the psychosocial interventions and the psychobiological interventions, right? Where even though you might not get this improvement from bottom up to this quality of life, your fatigue, your mood, what we might see if we take the steps that are listed here, we try in this group cognitive workshop intervention, if we highlight psychosocial interventions, cognitive behavioral interventions, what we're looking to see is if we can improve our ongoing environment, we might see some top-down benefits from engaging in this group cognitive rehabilitation workshop. So in this sense, these are some of the improvements that we're looking for in ourselves over time. And in order for us to do this, we need to set a goal. And right, once we set a goal, then we need to insert these cognitive compensatory strategies so that way we can support our own selves throughout this process. Then we need to track and self-monitor so we can identify what are some of the benefits of doing this very important work for ourselves, right? In service to improving our own health status and our own overall quality of health and our own quality of life following brain injury. And so with that said, that is our third module for this week. And we will look forward to seeing you all for module 4 for next week. And also, if there are any questions, I'd like to open up the floor of the information right now. And any, yes, Kat. Oh, yes. Kat, and then I'll get to you, Kyle.
Okay.
All right, excellent.
Right.
Yes, Kat.
This goes back to the reducing environmental distractions. And
yeah,
I my brain shuts down when I've got too much stuff around, and I have a little house and I'm a bit of a clutter bug. So I have very few storage options in my house.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I can go down to a friend's house. My best friend passed, and I've been going through with her husband's blessings, her stuff and kind of sorting through 50 years of things. And I can go to their house and spend 8 hours totally focused, sorting like one room at a time, what goes where, what he wants to keep, what he wants me to haul back, figure out where to send it to Habitat or Goodwill. Totally focused. I love it. I walk into my dining room. I look at my dining room table, and like walk away. So it gives me hope because I can go to somebody else's house and be completely on track.
Yeah.
Their clutter doesn't bother me. Maybe because it's, quote, not my monkeys, and I'm going to walk away with a carload of stuff that I then go process for them. But walking into my dining room table, totally shut down and wander off. So it gives me hope, but it also is frustrating. So I don't know where the disconnect is,
Yeah, no, and I see that, right? Because I mean, like in your own dining room, all the things you have in there have like there's some sort of value in there, right? And so like being able to identify all the things that are in there and being able to sort them can be very difficult versus like going into somewhere where it's it's devoid of those kind of different memories or values. And so it's a lot easier to go in there somewhere sterile, right, and be able to like identify what are some things. So yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. The capacity is there. So then now it's kind of identifying, well, how can I take advantage of that for my own stuff, right? And so it may be some things of like really trying to break things down even further, right? So I mean, maybe instead of the whole, the whole dining area, maybe just a quarter of it, right? And like you're just trying to break things down there that way, so that way it's not as overwhelming for you.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
was. It was interesting, and I finally realized because it's their stuff is not quote my monkey.
Yeah.
Their my whole downstairs fits in like one of their rooms, bigger house, and I'm removing stuff, and so
Yeah.
I'm making their stuff bigger. These are things I want to keep. I just don't have any storage. But
Yeah.
and I've been doing this twice a month for probably over a year. I'm almost through, like going through everything that he wants gone and organized. But it was totally exciting to realize the capacity is still in my brain.
Yeah.
It's not completely smacked out into left field from all the head injuries, and so just needing to adjust, like I said, maybe take a smaller section
Yeah.
at a time versus I just walk in my house, I shut down.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe for this friend you're doing it, maybe they can help you out, like in this solid, like, hey, maybe you can come to my house and see if maybe this might work for you the other way, right? Just
Right.
it's something like that, right?
I had a friend in West Virginia, and we would go over like just a couple hours. We would switch every couple weeks because I could keep her on track, and she could keep me on track, and we would just switch off.
Yeah.
I don't have anyone out here, and the gentleman I'm doing this for is 83, and he's in so much pain. I wouldn't ask him to do that, but he thinks it's hilarious that I enjoy cleaning out his house, and he's more than happy that I am quite thrilled to clean his house out and not mine.
Yeah, and like you said, this what a thrilling realization, right? To the capacity is there, and now it's about trying to figure out, all right, cool, the capacity is there. Now, how can I bring that capacity to my house?
And to me, to my life.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, well, keep us updated on your progress there, Kat. Excellent. Yes. Yeah, Kyle, you had a question there, sir.
Yeah. What was the name of the pill you were just discussing? I mean, because I take lots of pills, so I'm just wondering if that's one of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So depends. There are two that are in the INCOG 2.0 guidelines. One of them is methylphenidate.
Okay.
Yeah, write it down. Good. I see it. Write it down.
Okay.
Good job. And the second one is MLC 901. Or it's also called NeuroAid.
Okay. So methylphenidate. Yes, I can't really read it.
Yeah, it's right here. It's up. If you want to look at how to spell it, it's up on the screen.
Oh, I don't have that screen. I have the screen view, but not the screen. Oh wait, actually, let me adjust my view. God, I don't know. Speaker view. Okay. Oh yeah, thank you. That was first. I see it now. Thank you again.
Yes. Yeah. So methylphenidate is number one, and number two is a Chinese medicine, MLC 901, or NeuroAid 2 to be exact.
Okay, thank you again for this, Daniel.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And you had a question there?
I don't know whether Mooney's still on the line. In generalities, he has some advanced since he's been through this course. In generalities, what was his concern? If he can talk, not in specifics to him. I'm just curious because I might apply it to myself. I don't know if he's still on the line.
Oh yeah, no, he's not in. So
okay.
I mean, maybe asking that question later this afternoon for the afternoon session. If Mooney's there, or maybe next week.
My own thing is that I have so much overwhelming pain.
Yeah.
And so I'm, hanging in there, but the pain is so overwhelming. Yeah. Sometimes less, sometimes more. I don't know
Yeah.
what the trigger is. But
Yeah. Where's the pain?
mostly my neck and head. I have cervical, craniofacial instability, and right now it's really bad, and it goes down my left side. So I have a sensation of just nerve pain all the way down on my left side, from
Okay.
head to foot.
Yeah. Private. Yeah. I mean, like, and then that pain you're experiencing, right? That pain can be very distracting, right? When it comes to being alert, paying
Yeah.
attention, or information processing. So have you got the information checked, or had gotten that pain checked via like a primary care physician?
Unfortunately, a good one I have in mid February, so it's gonna
Okay.
be wait. Plus,
Okay. Well, keep us updated.
I'm not a cooperative patient. They moved me from the ER to hospitalizing me for a liver problem, and they wanted to give me a protonic, and I know I'd be highly allergic, so I said, let me get out of here. I'll sign something. I want to leave, and I nursed myself at home with a Pepsid and better quality food, and
Perfect.
so my liver is not bothering me, and I just saw something where I can get a scan of my liver. But in order to get insurance paid for, your primary care has to pay for it. So I'm trying to evaluate how to do this, get her to refer me without seeing me. I might go but I'm in such pain, and I'm gonna sound like a pest, and I won't be presentable. So that's kind of the first layer of and that's why I'm here to really identify with you all beyond the pain, to live through it and see myself living without pain. So that's it. That's
perfect. Yeah. So I keep us updated on in February. So what they say regarding the pain. So appreciate that. And excellent. So we just got a question here on the chat, and then we'll close out for today. And so where had asked, where do we find the metacognitive strategies? Right. So there are 9 that I listed. These are all found in the slides that was sent out. Yeah. So thank you there, Vanessa. So the metacognitive strategies are on slides PowerPoint 12 to 20. And excellent. So what is the time for the afternoon class? And this is the afternoon class is 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so again, it'll be the same material, but then just longer, and then and won't be recorded. So to facilitate discussion. Excellent. So at 1:30, same link. So that's 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Same link. And yes, you had a question there, Kyle?
Yes. Well, I had a severe traumatic brain injury. It is but one of them says mild to moderate TBI, but enhances complex attention in individuals with mild to moderate TBI. But I had a severe TBI.
Yeah. So consult with your primary care physician, your neurologist.
Yes.
I will say that I've consulted with my neuropsychiatrist. I have also a quote unquote severe traumatic brain injury. So yeah, we had similar ones, and I'm and I take methylphenidate.
Okay. So talk to my doctor, I guess.
Talk to your doctor. Yes,
Okay,
I find it to be helpful, but you should definitely talk to your doctor.
Okay, thank you again, though.
Absolutely.
Which one again? I'm writing down. Which one do you take? Yes. Sorry.
I take methylphenidate. Yes, sir.
Methylphenidate. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah, and then and if last question there, and before we close out.
No. Before.
Oh, okay. All right, perfect. Well, then thank you all very much. I'll see you guys if you guys will be at the afternoon at 1:30 p.m. this afternoon. Otherwise, I see you guys for module 4 next week. Bye.
Bye, Daniel. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.